We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam. This is the 4th canto, chapter 28, verse number 24. Please let me know if I got the wrong verse. That's what I have, verse 24. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasvatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Virayet Nasta Prayesvabhadrisu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. It goes like this: Purim Vihaya Upagata Uparudo Bhujangama Yadatam Evanupuri Vishirna Prakritim Gata. The synonyms: Purim, the city; Vihaya, having given up; Upagata, gone out; Uparuda, arrested; Bhujangama, the serpent; Yada, when; Tam, him; Eva, certainly; Anu, after; Puri, the city; Vishirna, scattered; Prakritim, matter; Gata, turned into. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. The serpent, who had already been arrested by the soldiers of Yavanaraj and was out of the city, began to follow his master along with the others. As soon as they all left the city, it was immediately dismantled and smashed to dust. Purport. When the living entity is arrested, all his followers, namely the life air, the senses, and sense objects, immediately leave the lump of matter, the body. When the living entity and his companions leave, the body no longer works but turned into basic material elements: earth, water, fire, air, and ether. When a city attacked by enemies is vacated by its inhabitants, the enemy immediately takes advantage of that city and bombards it to smash the whole thing to dust. When we say, "Dust thou art, and unto dust thou shalt return," we refer to the body. When a city is attacked and bombarded by enemies, the citizens generally leave and the city ceases to exist. It is a foolish person who engages in improving the condition of a city without caring for the citizens or inhabitants. Similarly, a living entity who is not properly enlightened in spiritual knowledge simply takes care of the external body, not knowing that the spirit soul is the principal factor within the body. When one is advanced in spiritual knowledge, the spirit soul is saved from eternal transmigration. The Bhagavatam considers those who are attached to their bodies to be like cows or asses, Saiva Gokara. The cow is a very innocent animal, and the ass is a beast of burden. One who labors under the bodily conception simply works like an ass and does not know his self-interest. It is therefore said, Yasatma Buddhi Kunapetrida Duke Swadi Karaktradi Shubhama Ijadi Yatirtha Buddhi Salilena Karichit Janeshwa Pikyesu Saiva Gokara. This is from a Bhagavatam 10th canto, 84, 13. A human being who identifies his body made of three elements with his self, who considers the byproduct of the body to be his kinsman, who considers the land of birth worshipable, and who goes to a place of pilgrimage simply to take a bath rather than meet men of transcendental knowledge there, is to be considered like an ass or a cow. Human civilization devoid of Krishna consciousness is simply a civilization of lower animals. Sometimes such a civilization may study the dead body and consider the brain or the heart. However, no part of a body is important unless the spirit soul is present. In a modern civilization of cows and asses, scientists try to search out some value in the brain or heart of a dead man. Wow, strong words. Om Agyanati Mirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chaksurumilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripata Maham Vande Shri Gurundina Taranam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Mishwaram Vanchakalpatarvischa Kripasinduve Vachapatitanam Pavanavyo Vaishnavavyo Namo Namaha. I ask for the blessings of all Vaishnavas present and absent, and blessings of the Acharyas to give me a drop of mercy so I may be able to say something instructive and Krishna conscious. So the verse again, the serpent, which signifies the life air in this particular allegory, who had been arrested by the soldiers of Yavanaraj, who is fear personified, could be death, and was out of the city, began to follow his master along with the others. As soon as they all left the city, it was immediately dismantled and smashed to dust. So let's analyze the purport. As Prabhupada said, that purports were his personal ecstasies and it's full of wisdom. That's actually, there is a huge difference between knowledge and wisdom, huge difference. As knowledge could mean just some fact about something, like there is a dead body and there is a body that is, or seems alive. So, but knowledge doesn't describe why. And this is crucial in the understanding of Krishna consciousness as well. When we explain the how or the what, but do not understand the why, we actually don't have wisdom. We may have knowledge. So we may quote innumerable verses and justify it and give statistics, etc., etc. But wisdom means vijnana, you know, you really deeply know. So Prabhupada has abundant vijnana and transmitted to others. That's why when many Bhagavad Gita copies, versions were available before Prabhupada's Gita, there was knowledge, and there was even some scholarly versions, but there was no vijnana, there was no realization, there was no wisdom, and it's the wisdom that convinces people to become devotees of Krishna. So we should pray for wisdom. Of course, knowledge is useful, but as Prabhupada said, as Prabhupada said, zero. It took me a while to understand what he meant. This means zero. There's many zeros. More knowledge you have, more zeros you have, and unless you put Krishna in front of it, it has absolutely no value. 1 0 and a million zeros are all zero. Okay, let's go to the purport. When the living entity is arrested, and this is an argument that Prabhupada used when people didn't accept God, is that then Prabhupada said, God will come as death. So you will realize God when death comes and takes you away. So this is, everybody gets arrested. Nobody gets out of this ticket. Namely, the life air, the senses and sense objects immediately leave the lump of matter, the body. So this is not very difficult to understand, that even in a situation where someone is not educated in metaphysics and to understand that there is something beyond the physical realm, will understand that a beloved, whether it be a friend or a spouse or a family member, or even someone that we don't know. Like I remember living in Argentina when John Kennedy died and my mother was crying. We weren't even living in the same country. I'm sure a lot of people around the world died because someone that they didn't know, and definitely weren't known by that person that passed away, was gone. And even a person that is close to can understand that this person that I love is gone, even though the body is there, still warm, maybe smiling, maybe the eyes are still open, but the person is gone. So even a person with poor fund of knowledge, as Prabhupada was fond of saying, can understand the difference between matter, and spirit. Of course, they don't take it any further than that. This person, because nobody wants to have a relationship with a dead person. Well, there's a disease called necrophilia, or what they do, but that's a sickness. So normal people do not want to have a relationship with a dead body. But we are so identified with our own body that even when we see a roadkill somewhere on the road, we are kind of shaky, even if it is a squirrel or a skunk. What to speak of something bigger like a deer, and what to speak of a human being. We're shaken by this departure, and we are fascinated, but we are afraid because we identify with our own body. So we think, no, I don't want to see this. I don't want to witness this. And Prabhupada said, this will happen to all of you. That we all have to leave this body behind, because this body has an expiration date. Just like when you see, you have aspirins in your bathroom or bedside table, and when you don't take them often, and then you look at the expiration date and say expired in 1975, you throw it away. You don't keep it around. You don't become attached to it. No, but I had it for so long. Well, it's illogical to become attached to expire aspirin. It's just as illogical to become attached to an expired body. And this body already expired. Actually, it's always been dead. Body never has life. It's the soul that is activating this minuscule spark of the Supreme is actually moving this giant machine that is incomprehensible even to science. Now with the further discoveries in microbiology, the possibilities of the body being made by accident is impossible. It's impossible. So there is an orchestration, there's a conductor, and we should be sensitive enough and sensible enough to understand and to accept and to take steps to understand it even further, to convert our knowledge into wisdom. When the living entity and his companions leave, the body no longer works, but turns into basic material elements: earth, water, fire, air, and ether. When a city attacked by enemies is vacated by its inhabitants, the enemy immediately takes advantage of that city and bombards it to smash the whole thing to dust. When we say, dust thou art, and not to dust thou shalt return, I think this is from the Bible, we refer to the body. When a city is attacked and bombarded by enemies, the citizens generally leave and the city ceases to exist. So this quote from I believe it's the Old Testament, is to understand that the body is made out of dust and other material elements, and that's where it goes. Of course, people may misinterpret that, but simply means that we are not the body. It's a different way to say it. And so we can see that the New Testament and the Old Testament are all spoken in parables and allegories, and things just like when you speak to someone who is not very smart, you have to give examples that don't appear too personal, because they will be upset by such reference. So the literatures that Prabhupada translated are very direct. They go to the point. They don't waste any time. That's why Vyasadeva was despondent even after writing the Mahabharata. The Mahabharata is a wonderful piece of literature. It's probably the greatest epic ever written, and the longest as well. And he wasn't happy. Just imagine that one of us or all of us start writing books, and you end up writing the Mahabharata. You'll be so proud of yourself. You couldn't couldn't fit a hat in your head. It will swell so much. But Vyasadeva wasn't happy. So Narada Muni, his guru, told him why. Because he was giving too many concessions. He was going into the karma kanda business, and he wanted pure devotional service to be delivered in a literary form and not karma kanda. Therefore, he wrote the Bhagavatam. And that's the Bhagavatam is the salvation, is the book that is anybody should be proud of, even owning a copy, what to speak of he who wrote it. It is a foolish person who engages in improving the condition of a city without caring for the citizens or inhabitants. Prabhupada used to give an example of someone drowning and someone swimming from a shore and rescuing the coat of that person and bringing it back to shore and show it to his wife, now widow. It's no use. The body cannot be saved. And this was also the quandary of Arjuna, who was that Krishna put in some illusion so he could deliver the Bhagavad Gita. That you care for what's not, you're lamenting for what's not worth of lamentation. Gata summa cha. So Krishna told him, don't, the body was never alive, will never be alive. The soul cannot be killed. I don't understand why you're lamenting. All these people are dead. I already arranged for that. There's no way you can save the body or kill the soul. So just do your duty. So the whole Bhagavad Gita is about duty. One should perform one's duty. Of course, one has to understand what one's duty is. And our duty, it's not that we all have different duties, but our main duty is to deliver the conditioned souls, to share the gift that we have been given. That's the duty of every Vaishnava. It is a foolish person who engages in improving the condition of a city. Similarly, a living entity who is not properly enlightened in spiritual knowledge simply takes care of the external body, not knowing that the spirit soul is a principal factor within the body. Just like you can have a car whose all the parts are perfect, and without a driver, it's kind of useless. And you may say, well, there are self-driving cars. Yeah, but you still need someone to turn it on. So this is who we are. We are the soul that turns on the material body. And just like a glove that is covering a hand, appears to have a shape and movement and so on, but the glove by itself is simply a shape, simply a shadow of the real substance, which is the soul. When one is advanced in spiritual knowledge, the spirit soul is saved from eternal transmigration. This is a very strong wording the Prabhupada uses. Eternal transmigration. And there is a song, there's a Spanish song called El Preso Número 9, the prisoner number 9. And he sings about, he's talking to a priest while he's in jail, and says that he didn't commit the crime that he was accused of killing someone else. And then says, or maybe he killed someone. I can't remember exactly, but I remember the lyrics that said, Padre, no me arrepiento, ni me da miedo la eternidad, which means, Father, I don't repent, I don't regret what I did, and I'm not afraid of eternity. So this is a bit of a philosophical mistake, which is that eternity is a thing to fear. Like, of course, if eternity was going to be like my life in this body, in the material world, it will be intolerable to live forever the way I live in the material world. is inconceivable. It will be like a life which is mostly struggling. So this is what people are afraid of. They're afraid of eternity, like the prisoner in the song, because it means a life of struggle. But eternity is not that. We are eternal. We have nothing to do with this world. This is just a temporary stop, like a bus stop in the middle of nowhere, that we all of a sudden became very attached to and start spending money and energy trying to decorate the bus stop. That is foolish. The Bhagavatam considers those who are attached to their bodies to be like cows and asses. Saiba Gokara. We know the word go from Goloka, Gokula, cows, Govinda, Gopala. The cow is a very innocent animal. No, not according to Dhruva Maharaj, who thinks they're all plotting to escape and try to disguise their plan in many different ways. But let's say, for the sake of following the Bhagavatam, the cow is a very innocent animal, except the Gitanagari cows that are cunning and escape artists. And the ass is a beast of burden. We don't doubt that. We may not think so. If you go to a petting zoo and you see a little donkey that, it seems like a nice little animal. But if you go to India or Southeast Asia and you see what the donkeys do, they have an incredible load. They put just wood on top of a donkey and then a cloth on top, and it's like a gigantic burden. And the donkey just goes around knowing that he will be given some grass, some dry grass at the end of the day, and that will be his reward. Even though wherever he's walking, there is fresh green grass all over the place. But it's a beast of burden. And that's what it does. And humans also do that. Because the donkey also thinks that I'm going to have sex too. I'm going to have sex. So everything is going to be fine. But then he gets kicked in the face by the she donkey who's, not tonight, honey. I have a headache kind of thing. And that's how we humans are. We are promised some kind of reward at the end of a day, which is a burden. And believe based on this, and Prabhupada says, and this just make complete sense, that people work focusing on the result, on the reward. So how is it possible that so many devotees distinction, whatever the trappings of the material world may be, but the sincere devotees are working just to please Krishna and the Vaishnavas? It's because that is the discovery that we are eternal servants, and that is our Sanatana Dharma, that we serve. And our only pleasure is derived from service, and anything else is questionable at best. Yesterday, I was talking to Rasamandala Prabhu from England, who spoke last week, and he's going to speak again in early October. And he was mentioning virtue, that this is what we have to cultivate. We need to be gardeners of virtue, and virtue will guide us into leadership so we can guide others to the same path. And I was thinking of, maybe I'm oversimplifying here, but I think virtue is the consequence of serving others, to thinking about others rather than thinking about ourselves, that we are always me, 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 me. And it should be others, Krishna and Krishna's servants. And that includes everybody. So Prabhupada continues to say, after quoting Jasa, Saiva Lokara goes on to quote a complete verse from the Bhagavatam. One who labors under the bodily conception simply works like an ass and does not know his self-interest. It is therefore said, Yasyat Mugudi Kunape Tritaduke. Swadi Kalatradishu Bhaumai Jadi Yatirta Budi Salivena Karichit Janesha Bigyesha Saiva Gokara. A human being who identifies this body made of three elements with his self, who considers the byproducts of a body to be his kinsman, who considers the land of birth worshipable, and who goes to a place of pilgrimage simply to take a bath rather than mean men of transcendental knowledge there, is to be considered like an ass or a cow. Sometimes the translation goes a cow or an ass, but in this particular portion is an ass and a cow. Ass goes first. There's a verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the 11th canto. There's quite an interesting verse. Ehendriya pranamano diyamyo janmapyaya kshudbhaya tarsha krichai samsara dharmaya abhimukyamana smritya harar bhagavata pradana. Translation is, within the material world, one's material body is always subject to birth and decay. Similarly, the life air, prana, is harassed by hunger and thirst. The mind is always anxious. The intelligence hankers for that which cannot be obtained, and all of the senses are ultimately exhausted by constant struggle in the material nature. A person who is not bewildered by the inevitable miseries of material existence and who remains aloof from them simply by remembering the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is to be considered Bhagavat Pradana, the foremost devotee of the Lord. There is in the purport, Srila Madhvacharya is quoted as saying, and actually I did ask Chiti Shakti, the psychiatrist devotee from England, who also gave a wonderful lecture, and he's going to speak again in September. I asked her to actually perhaps speak on this topic because she deals with the miseries caused by the mind, the intelligence, the false ego, and sometimes the body, addiction, and so on. So Srila Madhvacharya has given an elaborate description of the process by which material miseries arise. So here it is, science. Where does misery come from? When a conditioned soul of demonic mentality identifies himself with the gross material body, and I should say, I should have a disclaimer here. It says, when a conditioned soul of demonic mentality, that means everybody. Because unless you are divine in nature and you agree and accept and become a servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, you have a demonic mentality. So when a conditioned soul of demonic mentality identifies himself with the gross material body, that goes the first mistake, identifying with the body, he undergoes miseries of constant drowsiness and unquenchable sexual desires that burn all mental peace and serenity to ashes. How about that? You may try some exercises, you may try some whatever, but this is what happens. Why are we bewildered and dizzy and lusty? It's because we identify with the body. Therefore, all mental peace and serenity goes to waste. When a demonic person identifies himself with prana, the life air, he suffers from hunger. Any hungry people? And by identifying himself with the mind, he suffers panic, fear, and hankering that ends in disappointment. When he identifies himself with intelligence, he suffered profound existential bitterness and frustration deep within his heart. When he identifies himself with the false ego, he feels inferiority, thinking, I am so low. So this is not humility. This is misidentification with the false ego. And when he identifies himself with the process of consciousness, he's haunted by memories of the past. When a demon, again, anybody who's not a devotee, tries to impose himself as the ruler of all living beings, control freak, all of these miseries expand simultaneously. So how about that? That's just a little section. This is 11.249, if you want to look up the rest of the purport, which is quite enlightening. So this is a bad path to follow, to identify with any of the things that are not the soul, with the body, with the mind, with the false ego, with the life air, with the process of understanding consciousness. Anything you identify with that is not the soul, you will have miseries coming to you delivered by Federal Express, just, not even next day, same day. Human civilization devoid of Krishna consciousness is simply a civilization of lower animals. Prabhupada says it. Sometimes such a civilization may study the dead body and consider the brain or the heart. However, no part of the body is important unless the spirit soul is present. In a modern civilization of cows and asses, scientists try to search out somebody in the brain or heart of a dead man. So there is so many departments that are funded to study the body and some about the mind. But who is studying the soul? Who's studying actually who we really are? You tell me. That's why this is a civilization of dogs and cats and cows and asses. That's confirmed, by the noise. Okay, so on that note, it may seem like a very depressing picture, but actually it's quite the contrary. Is to me, this philosophical understanding, this difference between the soul and everything else that we hold dear is a source of good news. When I joined Krishna consciousness, I had so much relief. I can't even express it. I didn't understand how miserable I was until I heard the words, "You're not the body." And having understood that, the relief was immeasurable. So while people are completely absorbed in something other than understanding themselves, which is a distraction, a waste of time, we have to just give them something so they can come closer. And we may have to do it in an allegorical way, in an indirect way, metaphorical, using parallels, becoming friendly, so these people accept what we have to give. They can understand that we don't have an agenda. That's actually very difficult for anybody to trust, because we have other people spewing their nonsense and ignorance and poison, as well as some truth, but it's hard to discriminate. So it's our responsibility as devotees to continue the mission of Srila Prabhupada. He wanted to save all the conditioned souls. And now the gift is ours. And it's a gift of love as well as a burden of love, but it's there. We have to do it. There's nobody else that will step up and do it. It's not we have to wait to read read on Facebook that, oh, some such and such saved the world. Oh, thank God, I didn't have to do it. No, it's our responsibility. We all have to do it. Okay, so let's get to the, I hope it wasn't, thank you, Yasudev Prabhu. He said, I was thinking the same thing. This purport is encouraging. Yes, it is encouraging. It may be, yeah, it's like certain things sound different. Like, for example, they're putting lights in a particular parking lot. So a normal person will think, oh, great. It makes it safer. It will be nice to see everything. And for the criminal, it's horrible. They're going to see me coming to commit my crime. So the same piece of news, enlightenment perhaps, is bad news for those who want to remain criminals. And for those who actually are civilized and virtuous, it's great news. Finally, I figure out what I'm supposed to do. Instead of just being absorbed in the different things that I think is the self, like the mind, the ego, and et cetera, I can understand, oh, yes, I'm a soul. I'm supposed to do this. I don't have any other business. So we shouldn't be daring and think that there is anything else for us to do. Our only business is to deliver Krishna consciousness to others. That's it. That's a family business. If you thought we had other programs, yeah, they may be subservient to, but that's the main program. We have to give Krishna consciousness to others. You got it, you give it. If you don't give it to others, it will be taken away from you as well. It will shrink like the heart of the miser. It will shrink and become hard and callous. So we should expand. We hear about soften your heart, allow the love of Krishna to permeate it. This is how you do it. This is the heart softener. To preach, to give Krishna consciousness to others, to somehow or other make the effort. Whomever you meet. Krishna Upadesh. Whomever you meet. Doesn't matter who it is. In one way or another, you have to deliver some form of Krishna consciousness in a decent, intelligent way. Not pushy, not dogmatic. We have to give the best that we have to others if we want to preserve what's best for us. All right, enough of a sermon for this morning. Any questions or comments, please? Anybody still awake? Okay. Well, thank you for hanging in there. And I hope you have a very wonderful Krishna conscious day. See you later. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Grantaraj, Srimad Bhagavatam, Ki Jai. Hari Hari Bol.